Each day, we bring you news and images of the conflicts raging on planet Earth. But there is a different kind of a battle, and one hardly less dangerous, that is underway in the skies. The skies are swarmed with satellites, but now Russia is planning to up the ante. How exactly? Well, it's up to something troubling. According to US intelligence, it is developing a secret space weapon, and concerns are, is it a nuclear one? That's the big question. The US National Security spokesperson John Kirby stopped short of saying that. But what he did say was the weapon is space-based and that it violates the 1967 Outer Space Treaty. Listen to this.
It would be space-based, and it would be a violation of the Outer Space Treaty, to which more than 130 countries have signed up to, including Russia.
Now, this treaty basically prohibits the deployment of nuclear weapons or other weapons of mass destruction in space. So if Russia's secret weapon is breaking these rules, what does that mean? The US has tried to hush up the nuclear component. Kirby says he cannot elaborate on the specific nature of the threat. In fact, the White House did not even plan to make this knowledge public. It was forced to comment after a Republican lawmaker's remarks. Just a day earlier, the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, Mike Turner, ignited a firestorm at Capitol Hill. He announced that his panel had information of a serious national security threat. He also called on the Biden administration to declassify the information. This obviously sent alarm bells ringing. The White House was infuriated. And since then, it has tried to downplay the entire situation. And why is that? Well, maybe it's trying to protect its crucial sources of intelligence in Russia. Anyway, now the sensitive information is out in the open. What do the experts then have to say? Well, they also think that Russia's new weapon could be a nuclear-powered device, not necessarily to cause mass destruction on planet Earth, but to create trouble in space. And this, by the way, includes blinding, jamming, or frying the electronics inside satellites. You heard that right. You see, threatening satellites could cause all sorts of mischief. They can be used to disrupt communications, for surveillance, for intelligence, and for military command and control. When Russia deploys its new space weapon, it is going to pose challenges for the United States, to say the least, because it does not have the capability to counter such a weapon and defend its satellites as of now. And it only has a limited window of time to actually develop a counter. And what is America doing about this then? It is in the middle of testing a new approach because the Russian threat is neither new nor surprising. Concerns about placing nuclear weapons in space go back 50 years. In response, the US is developing a proliferated warfighter space architecture. Instead of focusing on safeguarding its satellites, Washington basically is aiming to blanket low Earth orbit with hundreds of smaller and cheaper satellites. It's quite similar to what Elon Musk's Starlink communication system does. And the idea here is, even if enemies of the US could knock out some of its satellites, or let's say even more than a dozen of them, the system could still keep operating by shifting to other units in the orbiting web. Only hours after Turner's cryptic statement, the Pentagon sent a missile tracking system into orbit. It's a part of America's efforts to bolster its military presence in space. The timing was coincidental, of course, but it highlights growing fears of a space war. Russia, China, the US have been pushing to assert dominance in outer space. In fact, each of the superpowers is working to blind the others. According to Washington officials, if there is a space war, the first obvious threat would be an attack on its satellites. And any country at war would be crippled without telecommunications, geolocation, and surveillance systems in space. And the alarm comes for a reason. For decades now, Russia has been developing weapons that can basically destroy satellites in low Earth orbit. Let me back that up. In the year 2021, Russia tested a ground-launched missile against one of its own satellites in orbit. The test generated a cloud of debris that NASA said endangered the International Space Station and its crew. It could have even gone on to threaten other satellites as well. Russia's rising ability to station nuclear weapons in space could be the next scary frontier of warfare. The question is America prepared for it? WION now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the updates on the move.